Now, before we go any further, I feel like I have to, just because my heart compels it. Anytime I take the podium at our beloved school here, is to thank Mrs. Coffey, our principal, for her dedicated leadership. And it's really thanks to her leadership and that of all our faculty and staff, our board of trustees, and our devoted families, that RAA is where we are now. And where that is, I think it's the best position we've been in the 18-year history of the school. Our oldest daughter started here in kindergarten, and she's now in college, right? And so we've seen a life cycle of the school. It's been a tremendous blessing for our family, but it just continues to get better and better. And you could take any of its facets: the faith life, the academics, the powerhouse athletics, right? Basketball and track and the cultural life. Just to take one piece of it, right? The dramatics at the school, right? Look, I don't know if I should quite say this, but I have nothing against. I'm sure it's a great program. What was maybe happening down the street in other school play, Shrek Junior. But our second graders, right, are doing Greek mythology, right? Our fifth graders were doing Lingua Latina, plays of the Familia Romana in Latin, right? And then our seventh and eighth graders with Mrs. Bellacora and Miss Dalton and so many others turned this place here into a miniature Globe Theater for the first time this spring with a production of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And it's something that really is extraordinary. I should also say that having been with the school when we were operating on, it would not be, as I'm sure Christian can attest, an understatement to say a shoestring budget, right? That we have a very healthy financial profile with year-over-year significant increases in donor support, thanks to all of your generosity. We have a very supportive pastor, Father Ames, who has not only confirmed our ability to stay here for next year, but is preparing to offer us a lease to stay here for the foreseeable future, so that while we continue to explore ways to grow our space and add to our facility, to be able to welcome all those students and families currently on our waiting list who are seeking RAA for an integral human formation for their children, to be able to, while we're looking to grow, to be able to call St. Coleman's our home. So we're really grateful to the pastor, Father Ames, and for all of this. And it's in this kind of position, I think, of tremendous blessing and great strength. It's in this context that we are in a position to welcome our new president for this next phase, really maybe generation of Regina Angelorum's development. And so Mr. Boyden will be here working closely with Mrs. Coffey to lead the overall direction of our school, focusing on strategy, development, facilities planning, and external affairs. And I have to say, it was a 6-month national search process that we undertook to look for our school president. And there were a lot of wonderful candidates, but Mr. Boyden emerged decisively among at the very top, I think, in the unanimous judgment of all of our trustees. We were told by one of them right after he did his presentation, and then had to walk out of the room kind of awkwardly, right? That we had really found a star. He's a proven leader in education, having led St. Peter's School in Cambridge, and then as Deputy Director of Enrollment and Operations with the Independence Mission Schools, as well as being a veteran classroom teacher himself, something we value highly, having come straight out of college to participate in the Alliance for Catholic Education, to teach in under-resourced Catholic schools in the city and in rural areas. He is a devoted student of the Catholic intellectual tradition, something that's very important to me. And he went to Georgetown University, where he said he majored in James V. Shaw studies, the sort of great Jesuit liberal educator, liberal in the classical sense, right? And then lastly, I would just say I've been edified also by his faithful Christian witness, dating all the way back to his days as an undergraduate, I'd say a fearless Christian witness, starting a chapter in Georgetown, the wonderful Love and Fidelity Network, spearheaded right at the time by Caitlin La Ruffa, and has been strong, devoted, and fearless ever since, and I think a great model to the students that we entrust to this school. And so I hope you'll join me in offering a very hearty welcome to our first new president, Mr. Patrick Boyden. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for the kind introduction. It's so wonderful to be here tonight. This night has been circled on my calendar for a long time to finally meet some RAA parents and families. I'm thrilled to be here. For those of you that are on Zoom, hello, I hope I'm in the right spot and you can hear me okay. I want to just start quickly with a few thank yous and acknowledgements myself. First, I want to thank our two fearless board co-chairs, Vincenzo and Dan, for inviting me into the life of the school and for giving me the opportunity. I think since our earliest conversations back in the fall, I've been just utterly energized by all the things that have already happened at RAA, for the ambitions and plans for the future. So it's been great to work with both of you and the entire board. I can't wait to partner and kind of take RAA to the next level. So thank you so much. I also want to echo Dan's remarks about Anne. Thank you so much, Anne, for all that you do for RAA. Obviously, as we transition to the president-principal model, Anne's going to continue to be such a crucial leader at our school. And when I was discerning the role and next steps, a huge part of my calculus was the opportunity and to work with you and to partner with you. And that's going to be just professionally and spiritually and personally so rewarding. So I'm already excited to have the collaborations that we've done as I've onboarded, but thank you for everything you do for our students, our families, our teachers. You're just such a gift to RAA. And I also want to thank my lovely wife. So this is, some of you might have met her, Evelyn. This is more than just kind of a new job for me. This is really our family laying down roots with a new community. We just had our second baby girl, Agnes Claire, a few weeks ago, and we're excited to have our own children go through RAA for the next 15, 20 years. Who knows? God willing. Some of the families here, there's other Ambroses and Agnes, and we're just, again, so excited as a family to be adding our names to the roster here. And Evelyn doing it alongside you is such a gift and blessing. I also want to just acknowledge, as I alluded to, my initial attraction to RAA was not this position. It was actually as a prospective parent, like I'm sure all of you at some point. My wife and I, we moved from Cambridge 2 years ago. Our son wasn't even yet 1 at the time. I took this new job at Independence Mission Schools, but quickly, as I started settling into the Philadelphia job and learning the Catholic ed landscape in the city and in the suburbs, we, like all of you, started thinking about what's the school that we want our children to go to? What are the things that are important to us as parents? And obviously the most important thing was having a school that encourages our children to fall in love with Jesus Christ and to fall in love with his church and to serve his church. And quickly, as we kind of surveyed the options in Philadelphia, RAA kept rising to the top in every conversation that we had, research that we did. And we're still living in downtown Philly, so we didn't know what that meant. Our son was, 11 months old at the time. But I think it's fair to say, Evelyn, that emotionally, we were locked in to RAA 18 months ago as prospective parents. And I think I told Vincenzo and Dan this, that hey, if the whole president thing doesn't work out, we'd love to be in the Parents Guild or do whatever we can to support the mission of the school. But God's providence ultimately led us here. So as a family, we just feel so tremendously blessed to be joining you all. I want to, if you want really good theological formation for a faith formation night, I encourage you to come for the gala when Dr. Peter Kreeft is here talking about the wonderful things that Dan mentioned. For tonight, I really just wanted to kind of share a little bit about my own personal background and my journey to RAA, and along the way kind of highlight some of the experiences that I had that will hopefully serve me well and help the community here kind of take it to the next level. So I want to start actually my senior year of high school. Like some of you maybe, I went to your average diocesan high school. I grew up in the Midwest, Diocese of Peoria, home diocese of Fulton Sheen. We not New York, are the home diocese of Fulton Sheen. But I went to this high school that was just fine. And if you went to Catholic school in the 90s or early 2000s, there was not thank God, the kind of culture wars and ideology that our schools are confronted with today. But there was also no intentional formation at all at the high school that I went to. It was, you had religion class over here, maybe there was an all-school mass a couple times a year, but there's no thought about how these things are integrated and how children were being formed and students were being formed. And it was fine. I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, my senior year of high school, it radically changed for me. My school hired a guy who was fresh out of a master's degree program at Steubenville. He was hired to teach sophomore religion, and he offered an elective for seniors called Classic Christian Literature. And I figured sweet, easy A, blow off class, it'll pad my GPA as I'm applying to colleges. I think the registration was capped for 8 kids. So all my buddies were gonna register. This guy was a first year teacher, we're gonna walk all over him, it was gonna be, and instead that class totally changed the course of my life. It was the first time anybody had seriously introduced me to the Catholic intellectual tradition in any sort of meaningful way, and to the Catholic liberal arts, and these questions that are at the core of everything that we do here at RAA. What does it mean to be a human person? How do we encounter and get to know the true, the good, and the beautiful? And it blew my mind as a senior. We read Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, Thomas More, Walter Chiswick, C.S. Lewis. The class we culminated with Louis de Montfort's True Devotion to Mary, and the total preparation we consecrated ourselves the day I graduated high school, which was a huge, huge gift and blessing. And so on one hand, I'm tremendously grateful for this teacher who's now the president of my high school and has totally turned it around. But I'm also, as a parent and as an educator in 2024, I realized that we can't leave it up to chance that our children are going to have one awesome teacher, their senior year of high school, that's going to plant the seeds that's going to change their life. It's just not sufficient in this day and age. That model of Catholic education, we have a mandate as parents and as educators to start forming our children at the youngest ages, with parents as the primary educators, the school in partnership, and that's exactly what Regina does. And that's why it's such a gift, hopefully, to your family, to our family. And I think with sadness, I had this amazing experience in high school, but 120 of my classmates didn't take this elective. And they graduated high school without this experience that was just, I stumbled into it by God's providence, but it actually, Catholic education needs to be entirely oriented around what I had in this elective. And that was something that I've reflected on a lot over the last 15, 20 years of my life as an event. So anyway, after high school, that course got me thinking differently about what I wanted out of college. A lot of the 8 people in that class, 4 went to Benedictine in Kansas. So started looking seriously there, applied to Steubenville, Ave Maria. But of course, my search led me to a paragon of Catholic orthodoxy in higher education, which is Georgetown University. Thankfully, thank God, at the time there was still some really good Jesuits, still some wonderful things. Like Dan mentioned, I was fortunate to take several classes with the late, great Father James Shaw, and just kind of dove headfirst into my spiritual and intellectual formation. Again, asking these key questions that are at the heart of our faith and at the heart of all that we do as Catholics and as Christians. And so I had this tremendous, and Caitlin helped us fight the culture wars in college as well. And I had this amazing experience as an undergrad. But even maybe more importantly than the classroom formation that I had with these great teachers and these holy priests was the community. It was the first time I was ever part of an intentional Catholic community of peers that were asking the same questions, grappling with the same things, with the same end goal in mind, which was heaven. And we didn't know how to get there. We were stupid college students, but we were in it together. And the data point that I love to share, my senior year of college, I lived with 10 guys in the Knights of Columbus house, and 6 are either priests or in formation. So this will be year 3 of 5 of at least one ordination of a college roommate of mine. And we're still texting all the time. We have a group chat. We were just texting this week about the document that came out of the Vatican that seems very good, which is awesome. But what a gift and blessing to have, my peers that I spent my college years with are now serving God's church and providing the sacraments. And these are guys that I studied with and lived with and prayed with. And it was the first time that I knew community is at the core of what it means to live in our faith. And I think as lay people especially, and all of you as parents, I think this event tonight is emblematic of that. And so a huge draw for me to RAA was to kind of continue that through line of what I first experienced as an undergrad. And so I'm thrilled to keep pushing that and keep thinking of innovative ways of how can we foster community. We're all in this together. We all want the same things for our children, which is for them to become saints and scholars in that order. And so we'll do it together. I'm thrilled to engage in that work with all of you. After college, like Dan mentioned, I did the Notre Dame ACE program and fell in love with working with kids and students and teachers and families. It cemented on my heart a real call from God to be doing this work as a career, as a vocation. And so since then, I've worked in a variety of school settings. I had a brief sojourn out of education to get my MBA, which I think was actually, it was prompted by some recommendations from real mentors of mine. I think it's a skill set that is really needed in Catholic education leadership. And while I was getting my MBA, I had the good fortune to work for Catholic Relief Services, Government Relations and Lobbying Office in DC. It was a very interesting time to work with the USCCB on a lot of lobbying. I can chat more about that after. But I came back, and like Dan mentioned, I was the principal up in Cambridge while my wife Evelyn was working on her PhD of St. Peter. And I had a tremendous experience at St. Peter, and it taught me a lot of things about Catholic education. And the most important one is something that everyone in this room knows, is that the Catholic piece is the most important. Sadly, when I joined St. Peter, it had kind of been diminished for a long time. There had been all sorts of, and you can imagine in Cambridge, there are all sorts of forces that are working against the Catholic identity of the school. And so when I joined, the school was also at a really challenging spot financially, enrollment-wise, and it was really kind of a turnaround situation. And through the grace of God and the hard work of many people up in Cambridge, we were able to, I think, achieve some awesome things at St. Peter, many of which I'm hoping I can bring to the fore here at RAA and the work that we want to achieve together. We expanded the campus physically, so I think not dissimilar from RAA. During COVID, we were the first school in all of Cambridge to reopen. So Harvard's $50 billion endowment, we beat them to the punch. So we opened and we saw a huge influx of parents and families that wanted to come to the school. And all of a sudden we needed more space. And I think that's something that we're encountering here at RAA. And so we worked in partnership with the Archdiocese, with the parish, to expand into what was the old convent kind of adjacent to the school. And we fundraised for it, and we put in a new STEM center, a new pottery studio, and then most importantly, we were able to rededicate the original chapel that hadn't been used in the convent for like 40 years. And all of a sudden there was a sacred space orienting everything that we did as a school. All of our staff started every morning there with morning prayer. Classes could go over there for class prayer and rosaries, and it was just this tremendous gift to the life of St. Peter. Another thing at St. Peter, I came to really appreciate the proximity to these world-class institutions that we enjoyed in Cambridge. We were just, not even a mile down the road from Harvard Square, MIT, all these amazing companies, organizations. The Archdiocese in Boston has some tremendous kind of holy sites. And it was an opportunity for us to really tap into that, to elevate the student experience that we were providing our kids, and the professional development that we were offering to our teachers, and the formation opportunities that we were offering to our families. And I think in many ways, Ardmore is very similar. We're just down the street from one of the great cities in America, and there are so many things at our fingertips that we can be tapping into to make our student learning experiences more robust, our teacher formation more robust. And a lot of that groundwork has already been laid, which is phenomenal. But I'm excited as president to really lean into that work. And what are those partnerships? Who are those organizations that we can work with to continue to elevate our mission here at RAA? And like Dan mentioned, for the last few years, I've been working in the city for Independence Mission Schools. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a network of 14 Catholic elementary schools serving inner city Philadelphia neighborhoods. So the quick history for IMS is about a decade ago, the Archdiocese was slated to close all of these schools because they were not financially sustainable, sadly. And a group of philanthropists stepped in and said, these schools are not just schools in these neighborhoods, but they're like critical lifelines. They provide free meals, breakfast and lunch for these students, safe after-school programming. So the work that IMS does is terrific. It's, I think, really social justice in the purest sense of the word. And at IMS, I've overseen all the kind of non-academic functions for our schools. So facilities, ironically, IT. And I'm excited to come to a school that has, I think, a much healthier perspective about the role of technology in the classroom. But all of the things, we've had to partner very closely with the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, like RAA, where all of the 12 of the 14 schools, IMS schools, are leased from the Archdiocese. So our partnership with them is as a tenant. And I've got to know a lot of the priests and folks in the Catholic Schools office and the real estate office, again, which I'm thrilled to bring to RAA to kind of further the work that needs to happen here to serve our community here. I'll continue to be at IMS for the rest of the current school year. And I want to thank Vincenzo and Dan for allowing me to finish out the school year gracefully there. That meant a lot. But one thing that I've missed and really kind of captured my heart when I was discerning this opportunity, at IMS, I don't really get the opportunity to interact with kids and with families. I only ever encounter if it's something really bad has happened and it's escalated to our legal department or there's a major issue. And I've really missed knowing students and parents and working with teachers, and the opportunity to be a part of an intentional community, like I said, is just something that has drawn me and excites me about being here with all of you for many years to come. I'll close out by just sharing a little bit more about what I think we're hoping to achieve in partnership in the years ahead and as we move to this president-principal model. First of all, I want to reiterate that Mrs. Coffey's role will not change. She's going to continue to be the president that she has been at the school for so many years, and what a gift that will be. But I think this role, this president role, is really an investment by the board in the continued growth of RAA. Like Dan said, we're blessed to be in a really wonderful position, and that growth can come in several different forms. I think first and foremost, as a Catholic school, we have a mission to evangelize. And I think very transparently, we want every Catholic family in the area to send their kid to RAA. And we want families that are interested in Catholic education to send their kids to RAA. And we have ambitions to grow our enrollment, absolutely. But I think part and parcel of that, all of you have been in the school building, we need more space. And like Dan mentioned, we're thrilled that St. Coleman's is going to be a part of our future for many years to come. But we're constantly evaluating how can we expand our footprint here in Ardmore and nearby so that we can provide the learning spaces that our students need to really thrive. And to meet the needs of the growing demand that we have as a school community, which is such a blessing. So I'll be leading the charge. There's so many people in this room that I've been on calls with or exchanged emails with. There's an awesome amount of expertise and generosity of time already. So that work is underway and more to come. The other growth, like I mentioned, is figuring out what are those relationships that we can have that will elevate everything that we do. And I think I'm now on the weekly newsletter of all the activities and the sports and so many wonderful things happening, but I think really the sky is the limit for what we can do here at RAA. And there's just so many opportunities. And the last piece, and this gets to the event in a few weeks, all of what we want to achieve transparently will take resources. And so I'll be excited to continue bolstering and building out our development efforts, which I know have been so successful over the past few years, thanks to the work of many people in this room. But I'm excited to really invite donors and benefactors in to participate into the life of the mission of RAA. And in my experience, particularly at St. Peter and IMS, we're almost exclusively reliant on philanthropy. There's like two things that I found are needed to be successful in fundraising. And the first is a real eagerness to want to form relationships with people and to get to know their interests so that you can invite them to participate in the life of the school in ways that align with their passion and their interests and their capacity to give, whether that's of time, talent, or treasure. And that's work that I just love doing. And so I'm really excited to do that. And a second piece that I think is critical for fundraising is you have to have a compelling story to tell. And the good news is I don't think there's any more compelling story than what's happening every day at RAA already. That we are teaching children and helping them fall in love with Jesus Christ and to serve his church and to grow in virtue and to be leaders in our world. And I don't know any donor, anybody that would not want to participate in that. And so those folks, we're gonna find them. They're all around, and I can't wait to invite them to elevate everything that we do. So more to come. I am just so grateful for this opportunity. I can't wait to meet all of your children, all of you. Sorry, I'll try to make the rounds afterwards. But you'll see me over the next few months. And then in June, when I officially hit the ground running, I can't wait to continue being, guiding this school forward. And know in the meantime that I will be praying for you this Easter season. And thank you so much for your time tonight.
So I hope you can see why we were also excited about Pat. Low energy, mellow, but I think really going to make a mark. It was about a year ago. My family was in Boston, and we were just starting this search, and we were figuring out on calls with Christian and Dan on calls. The process is everything. We get a recruiter, we got to do process, we get rigorous. So we're talking to people. We meet Pat. All of our instincts, shut it down. We're done. We got it. We got it. We followed the process through anyway, but I think we knew that day that we had found our man, and it has been an extraordinary journey heretofore. But I think what we're so excited about, Pat, is the vision that we have, the vision to keep developing this extraordinarily special place will be in further great hands. So, Pat, we're so excited you're here.